All right, it is 6:31, and I believe we have a quorum, so I'm going to call this meeting to order. So this is the May Executive Committee meeting for Manhattan Community Board 2. I'm the chair of the board, Valerie Della Rosa, and could you give me a packet, please? Oh,
yes.
Thank you. Okay, great. So our first item on the agenda is the approval of the April Executive Committee minutes.
Fine, second, third.
You have a motion to approve. Any corrections or additions or deletions?
Nope, no.
Okay. So that, all those in favor?
Aye.
Great. Okay, so next is the chair's report. Hi. Let's get right to it. So first of all, some quick things. We had a walkthrough this afternoon of McDougal Street with Councilmember Rivera regarding outdoor dining. And it was very productive. We started out on Houston and went over to right before the park. And we had the Small Business Services, Food and Beverage person, Stephen P., his last name escapes me, Pinker, I believe. And then we had...
Wait, did you say Ed Pinker?
No, Pinker, P-I-N, not Pinkar. Anyways, so it was very productive. We had the director of public engagement from DOT there for the Dining Out NYC program. We had, and he was fastidiously pointing out clear path issues on several of the establishments that we went by, lack of perimeter demarcation. The idea was not to call these out, was to look at the challenges holistically of the implementation of the program, as well as to connect directly with the establishments, their management that was there. And just talk about broader cross-agency issues. The accessibility was brought up as an issue by SBS, so the Department of Small Business Services, and I reiterated the need for coordination between DOT and the Mayor's Office for People with Disabilities for clearer guidance to operators and to the public on accessibility requirements, which is federal ADA regulation. So it's very obfuscated on the city website. It's not on Dining Out NYC. It is all on a 311 knowledge page for accessibility complaints regarding outdoor dining. So with disappearing guidance that's disappearing from there as well. And so there's an open restaurants, great PDF about ramps and specific information, but what we really want is clearer guidance about that 36-inch accessible route, which is 3 feet. And so that is federal law to be accessible. It is not enough to have one table. And that's clearance that we learned through the great advocacy work of Stella Fitzgerald on our committee and connecting the dots on ADA regulations. In Title II, specifically of ADA, requires a public entity license, or a government entity such as DOT that is licensing a public space to a private entity to provide that guidance. And so there is no clear guidance for what ADA compliance is from the city, and that is a requirement of ADA Title II. I can give you the specific section numbers, but so we're going to work with MOPD, and there is someone there that is that role has been filled at MOPD to connect with interagencies on things specifically, like it's in the job description. You can still see it from when it was initially posted and they were hiring for the role on the outdoor dining program. And so we always want to make sure that guidance is updated from the open restaurants, and that it includes about the accessible route, because that's continuing to be a challenge. And when I say continue to be a challenge, I mean we see it to continue to be a challenge when the applications go to the liquor license committee with plans that maybe aren't in, noticing that they didn't follow things or whatnot. So
Should I hold questions till the end?
sure. And then other items, but that goes to say that outdoor dining is a success in CB2. We have double the number of sidewalk cafes than we did in the pre-pandemic, double the amount of participants than we did in the pre-pandemic program. It is another myth is that the program is expensive. And that is not true. Actually, for the majority of the land area of CB2, it is 55% cheaper to participate in the less expensive to participate in the program than it was in the pre-pandemic sidewalk cafe program. So there's 4 different zones of for the license. The way your license fee is calculated is from square foot based on what zone you're in. There's 4 zones, and it used to be $40 a square foot prior in the pre-pandemic sidewalk cafe program for anything below 96, and now it is $18 a square foot, so 55%. So you'll hear a lot of talk that this program is not successful, that this program is too expensive, again, it was not designed to make the city money because the fees were significantly lowered. So that's.
They had been 40 and now they're 18.
Yeah, for the majority of the land area, if you look for what the zones are, it's interesting when you look at Hudson Street. It's more expensive on the west side, like below Christopher, than it is on the east side. Those are 2 different pricing zones.
So it's essentially cheaper to have outdoor space than indoor space. Is that right?
I can't speak to what the square footage is for commercial real estate.
Right.
I would imagine so. So
Is that good?
that's a very good thing. I mean, that's all a very positive thing, and we testified to as such to the council. Now there are certain things that need to be clarified. I think in order for this program to continue to be successful.
I think it's a terrible thing.
Those blocks north only have, correct me if I'm wrong, only have seating on the west side, right?
Blocks north. What do you
On
mean?
Hudson?
Hudson?
Yeah, no, on McDougal, the blocks that you walk, is there only outdoor seating on the west side there?
No, they're seating on both sides. Yeah, they're seating on both sides. There's roadway, and there's one. I was like, I won't say the name, but I was like, I think this looks great. And the director of public engagement was like, it's not in compliance. This has these vertical bars. They have a low. They're only supposed to be closed on 3 sides, and it's closed on the one, even though it's a low barrier. So there were things that I was like, I think that's fine. And so it was really surprising to see that level of, and again, it's a 30-day corrective action request, and then it turns into a summons. So.
Rich is correct, though. It's only on the west side for the seating above.
Yeah, all the way to.
Sidewalks too narrow.
Yeah, I think it's.
You're saying, I was saying there is roadway though.
Yeah, there's roadway. But
Okay, sorry.
They're only on the west side.
yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I feel bad for people on the east side because there's restaurants there that don't have.
But I wouldn't, because I saw several tables out on the east side. So that's a compliance issue or an enforcement issue. So.
For roadway dining the same as it is for a sidewalk, that is $18 a square foot?
I don't have it memorized for each zone, but when I say the 50%, 55% cheaper, I'm comparing sidewalk to sidewalk.
Yeah, I'm just interested in knowing how much my public land is selling to private businesses.
Oh, I can text you. It's on the Dining Out NYC map. So, yeah. So, other than that, I won't let outdoor dining take all of that because that's kind of a little bit of my report, but I think it was important because we had the walk today. So it was, so that was it on the walk. One other thing that we that I want to bring up. We have 9 new board members. So it's very exciting. We had our first orientation for half of them last night. And then we'll have the next one tomorrow, bright and early at 8 a.m. So just trying to meet people where they are to get them onboarded before full board on Thursday. I do have some statistics.
Okay.
We love statistics. Let me see if I can find new member. Okay, so here we go. Let me quickly. Found it, okay. So some trends, 44% of the new members live in a co-op, 33% live in market rate apartments, 11% condo, 11% owns a house. I don't know what that means, but that's one of the options. Maybe they meant, they're probably a co-op or a condo, I'm assuming. 78% are in zip code 111. And then that's 7 people, and then 1 in 100, 10012, 11014. But let's talk neighborhoods. 4 in Greenwich Village, 4 in the West Village, 1 in Soho. 7 do not own a vehicle, 2 do. Average age, 44 years living in CB2, 10 is the average, and an average of 20 living in New York City. Now, I will tell you, Sean Sweeney was reappointed to the board, so that is the skew, I think, on this. So so there is someone on the board that is 1 year living in CB2 and 1.5 years living in New York City. And then the high end is 51 years living in CB2 and 75 living in New York City. We have 2 parents that were appointed, pre-K to 12th grade, 1 and 1 preschool age, with the preschool age children or child. I don't know what else is there. Those are kind of the interesting ones to me. I hadn't calculated that yet. I didn't get to that.
Okay, we'll meet them all.
Yeah, you'll meet them all. It'll be great. It'll be great. I didn't get that far. I think I went to do something like get my weekend started.
So these are statistics just for the new members?
These are just for the new members that I calculated because I was interested.
Yeah.
So I thought everyone else would be interested as well. So
9 members, that means each one is 11%.
yes, yeah, So 1 owns a condo, 1 owns a house. Again, it's probably a co-op or condo, I'm assuming. So that's what they chose. So that's where the data, yeah, so all of that. So the median, age 38, median, 3 years living in CB2, and the median of 15 years living in New York City. So we do have a couple that are 1, 2 year, there's like three or 4 of those. But otherwise, they all sound really dynamic. I'm excited for you to get to know them. They will be going to your committees. I'm also instituting a board buddies. So I've selected 9 board members to it's a very low lift. This is the whole orientation and this board buddy program is like something I've wanted that I felt was missing when I first joined, because you can be appointed and then kind of never talk to anyone and kind of go in and then you kind of are like, okay, hi. So it's a very low lift. It's once a quarter, Zoom or a phone call. If you want to take it to more than that, or a coffee, that's great. But I do have 1 spot I have not filled yet. So if there is someone you think, I've got a couple asks out. So please register your interest, and maybe there's another iteration of something to do. Other things. So send me an email. Like I said, I have a few other asks out, but I wanting to kind of close this up. And so I may have more than I'm able to assign, but just throwing that out there. So low lift, it's kind of someone you could have like, should I abstain or recuse on, someone you could like text during full board, or someone you could ask a question to, someone that, I now know, someone on 2 committees. And so when I go, all of that. So that's really the hope there. I'm really looking forward to see how that goes. And I think, Is there anything else, Mark, that I'm missing from the report? We continue to have conversations about, again, Ward Square and seeing how that goes along, and Eugene will give more of that in his report. But, oh, one thing we're going to start next month is looking over, taking a tally of all of the public members. There are some that have formally reapplied, and there's others that have not yet. So we're gonna follow up with those because it is a calendar year. So we'll just make sure that everyone's got their application in, and just check in that people are still wanting to serve. So they may still be showing up to your meetings, we just don't have that application on file, and we do need to because it's in the bylaws. And then second to that, and it kind of came up from the question you had, is in the bylaws, it actually says that our vote tallies need to be the committee members as one tally and your public members as a second tally. So that public member vote does not influence. So if you had a tied 4-4 vote on your committee, that one public member is not that, can't be that tiebreaker if they were to go one way or the other, if that makes sense. So it's also, so starting next month, because I know reports are being worked on, reports have been turned in, and I'll send an email just with that language from the bylaws, but it just came up in happenstance as I was asking Mark a question about something. So just want to throw that out there now so that we can prepare for next week.
So if you have
Next one.
6 committees, sorry,
After you.
6 committee members, one of whom is public, and let's say 4 of them vote yes, and the public member votes yes, you write 4 yes, public member yes, and then whatever the other
Right.
ones are.
Yeah, you would just write committee members, 4 in favor, 1 opposed.
And then
Public members.
Yeah.
Because I know you have 1 public member, but there are other committees that have more than 1,
If
and
it's
so.
unanimous, can we just say so?
No, you need to have it separated out because that's what it says. So even if, you can say unanimous for your committee members, appointed board members, but for public members, it just needs to be separated out.
So you would say committee members unanimous, public members,
Sure,
or whatever.
You
Okay.
say the name of,
unanimous in favor. No, you don't have to say the name. If they're opposed, it is helpful because then people at full board ask.
Yeah, and just a commentary on that thing about the public members' applications. I think that it had finally been moving along to some sort of system,
Yeah.
which we really desperately need, because
So the system was,
nobody seems to know when they're supposed to apply. I think that finally.
we have a system.
Had
yeah.
established like the end of the year in December.
Mhm.
I think it's got to get out there because,
Been there for years.
So
yeah, but it's not out there. People just don't know.
Why, I think.
you mean, you're saying to
Like
recruit?
potential people that
I
might
don't.
want
we
to,
don't-
and the ones that are even there.
They've been there so long, they.
Yeah, that they just forget. So something, I think we just need a little definitive something out there that lets people know.
Yeah.
The opportunity as well as the.
I agree.
My public member had applied and had a very long time getting told that she was on.
Oh,
So
okay.
how come?
there was a processing question, which I hope is just a glitch that's
right.
cleared up now.
Yeah, so, all right.
Also gives, new people a chance to apply.
Yes, it is a great recruiting tool.
Yeah.
Other than that, any questions on any of that? No, okay. So that's my report. And then is there a treasurer's report this month or no?
Yes, there will be.
Okay.
It's currently being formulated, but.
I think you have to come closer.
Yes, there will be. Currently being formulated. But will be presented on Thursday.
Okay, okay, so with that, Mark?
Okay. Where can I be heard? Okay, pardon me for shouting over you.
Yeah, do you want to come?
No, you're fine, you're fine.
All right.
Okay, first thing I wanted to mention is that we're gonna have a transition in our outsource for our audio support for full board. The last, that we use Mark Moss for, what was it, March and April. And Mark Moss had let us know back in October of 2023
Mhm.
that he has a curfew. And there's good reasons for it. He does a lot of work in schools and starts at 7 o'clock in the morning, and a lot of his support staff are school age kids. So, I'm allowed to say kids, right? So it's the 9:45 cutoff is not, it's hard to argue with from his perspective, but it is not realistic from our perspective. So I've identified so Mark's gonna be with us, and however late we go on Thursday, we go. But we're gonna transition to a new person who his name is John Leroy. And he is used by some other community boards. That's how I found him, through recommendations of other district managers. And he doesn't have a curfew. And his pricing is about the same as Mark's. It actually may be a little bit less depending on, Mark had a sliding scale depending on what we used and when we used them and so forth. This fella has a flat rate, and the flat rate is competitive. I don't know if we, obviously the chair and the treasurer and I will put our heads together about whether we can afford this for 11 meetings next fiscal year, starting in July. But we'll use Mark for May and this new fella in June. One of the differences is that this fellow will probably use some of our equipment. Actually, Mark will use some of our equipment this month too, because we want more microphones that he can provide. So anyway, the new guy is giving us a discounted price that he gives to community boards.
Can you tell us what that price is?
He charges $1,000 for a day rate, and it doesn't matter how long a day is, and he gives us a 50% discount, so $500. That's the current quote. We'll see what happens after we have a couple of experiences. Okay, unless there are questions on that, I'm going to move on to a quick note that we've been notified in a way that I can't get into an e-blast, and I don't think it's appropriate for an e-blast, but there are 3 intersections that DEP is going to be shutting down the water. So if you hear from folks in this particular area.
Wait, where?
Okay, so it's the corner of Thompson between Grand and Prince, Grand between 6th and West Broadway, and Broome between Sullivan and West Broadway.
Wow.
At midnight
We're good.
Wednesday, going into 6 a.m. Thursday. So that may affect both residents. Now, they do a robust outreach. They have paper flyers, they have sticky things they put on the door, and so forth, but I thought it's worth mentioning here in case any of you hear from any of your neighbors or constituents that that they didn't get the memo. June agendas, we expect to get the calendar out for the look ahead for June on this Friday. So we ask please to have agendas from any committee that is not, whose agenda is not driven by applications referred by an agency, to please get that to us by Friday morning at the latest.
This Friday.
This Friday, as in the beginning of Memorial Day weekend. Calendar e-blast we hope will be on Friday, especially since Monday is a holiday, and I don't think people will be reading their email looking for our calendar that day. I want to highlight a change of a change. You know that SLA has been in a different location than its traditional church location. And that's because of renovations at the church. Well, the new location at the hospital is also going under renovations. So we have to move SLA again.
Got to get those prices and lock them in for construction materials now.
That's right. Let's see.
They're finishing
We're not
up.
allowed to mention tariffs, so I won't mention tariffs.
Well, they're finishing up.
So for June, SLA 1 and 2 are going to be at the same place where we have full board, at the Gould Welcome Center. Now, they do have a curfew, but I note that we're only a block away, so if God forbid the meeting should run longer, there are ways in which we can hopefully deal with that. Let me see. By the way, the public member conversation came up out of the question of, do your public members count toward quorum?
Yeah,
The answer is no.
Wait, what?
They don't count
You
toward
told me
quorum.
that they do. Okay.
No, we just looked at it.
Yeah, we were just
looking.
looking.
I assume they do, because how, if you vote, shouldn't you also count for quorum? but it turns out not to be the case.
So they don't count toward quorum, but they do count for
Yeah,
vote,
I
but they
always-
have.
The bylaws say that.
That's why it's
quorum-
separated. That's why it's separated. So,
So the bylaws say that a quorum exists of a majority of board members, not, and there's a different term in the bylaws for public members.
Okay, that's.
So that was as close as we can get to clarity on that. Here's what I have in terms of expecting resolutions. If your name isn't on here or your committee's not on here, please let me know, because we're going to do you'll see in the board package that there's a draft of a agenda, but here's we expect resolutions from cannabis, from human services, from land use, from landmarks, SLA 1 and 2, street activities, and traffic and
Oh,
transportation.
no, you got mine on Monday.
Right, but I mean, it's gonna be on the agenda for Thursday.
Yeah.
I have it already, but
Yeah.
that's what we're expecting.
Oh, okay. Oh, you mean that's what you're
And-
gonna be?
And schools, there is no resolution, just a report, right?
Okay.
Did I forget anybody? No, okay, great. And then the last thing I want to mention, just as a little public interest, Francine, our temp, is having a show of her photography at the Theater for a New City. So and it's on for like a month. So if.
where is that?
The Theater for the New City, not the Theater for a New Audience.
Oh, okay.
Which is over on, I think, First Avenue. Anyway, she has an opening tomorrow. We're gonna run over there in shifts to just say congratulations. Anyway, that's my report, unless there are questions.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Any questions? Okay, let's go to the draft calendar. Dates. We all remember that full board is on a Wednesday.
I will say that in August, Human Services will not meet.
Yeah, I want to say that.
Because
Looking for the June, and just note, we all just confirm, and not confirm it's set, but just a reminder, not to confirm, just a reminder that it's full board is on a Wednesday.
It will not meet in July and August. Oh, in July. I know. When?
Schools will not meet in July and August.
Full board is on Wednesday in June.
Oh,
That
yeah.
is.
That was
Summer.
Okay, thank you.
Got it? We have a date in June.
There.
Anybody need to add a date?
Juneteenth, yeah. Notice that.
And I think Chenault, I think the Monday's open if needed.
Wait a minute, wait a minute. Unmute yourself.
Chenault, we can't hear you.
Chenault, unmute yourself.
I'm sorry. Ideally, there are two slots, 5:30 to 7:30 and 7:30 onward. Again, we don't know ahead whether that 2 hours is sufficient for a second meeting. This month, for example, we had two long meetings. It happened to be a night that nothing else met. But ideally 7:30 on the Monday and the regular Thursday.
Okay, so what Chenault is proposing is for the 16th, that can we split up these two meetings? I don't know how many agenda items, I don't have it off the top of my head. You have 4 schools ed, but he's
Two potential.
okay, so he's looking for a 2-hour slot and he's asking, we won't know if we need it until the first week of June, right? Yeah.
But a week before the Thursday meeting.
Yeah, so we won't know until June 5th. So we won't know until June 5th if Landmarks needs that second meeting date. So so the idea is there one committee that can take 5:30 to 7:30 and another committee that can take 7:30 to 9:30? That's what Chenault is proposing. And so I offer that for discussion here.
And we would know on that,
And we would know, so it's possible on the 5th that it may
whether
not.
the 2 hours was sufficient, but we wouldn't know before that.
I mean,
And
it
for
doesn't matter.
example, this month, we had a very large one that came in 3 days before the deadline. So
We need to be able to schedule and in a way that accommodates the what if. So I think we'll take the 5:30.
Okay. And you can always switch it back if it, if you want. Okay, so Chanel, it sounds like, it sounds like if you'll take the 7:30, if Landmark can take the 7:30 on that Monday?
That's ideal theoretically because it's not limited to 2 hours.
Right.
So would it be, should I put that on the calendar now, or should I wait to June 5th and see if there are in fact enough
But
resolutions?
it shouldn't be publicized until
Okay.
we do it.
That's what I was asking.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, and then for your planning purposes, are you okay with a 5:30 start by default? Or do you want to adjust it if needed? Like, are you okay? I'm just asking.
I'm waiting to hear back from the person I invited. to
Okay,
speak, So,
So if they can do 5:30, it'll be fine.
okay. And you have those ready to go on the calendar now? I think, and I've got it.
Mhm.
Okay, so, but the thing is, so when we publicize, like, when the calendar goes out on Friday, are we putting 5:30? Are we putting 6:30? What are you, we'll put 5:30. Okay, so we're just gonna set, okay, thank you. That way, that is also easier because then the office can kind of do it once, so that's helpful. Okay. Any other requests? Is there any other months people want to look at? I know it would probably be good for this meeting to look at August, just to make sure we're good, since that meeting is our only full board, and since we're May, before I know people start to solidify summer plans. So I just want to make sure we're all good with that meeting date.
The same for us every month in principle.
Right, and I think that works out. There's no conflict in July and August.
When the holidays come up,
Package.
particularly on a Monday, that
You don't show,
get through the summer.
Where on,
there's no full board in August. On this calendar.
oh, exact. What I mean is, what I mean is, thank you for pointing that out.
I wondered about that.
What I mean is, the executive meeting, is everyone here good? Because it serves as our full board meeting. I apologize.
So is that on the 18th?
That's on the 19th, so.
So what's on the 18th?
So, Mark, it's the full board package. I don't think that's on our public calendar. That's just when the package of when it goes out. Yeah, because it was confusing for me as well right now.
So what's on the 18th, it's not actually a meeting, it's just that the full board package is due.
Yeah,
It's on the website.
okay.
Or no, I mean, that's when you put it on the package.
I don't know if that's confusing. Is that confusing to people?
The one thing just for August is to keep in mind that because we don't have full board, the executive has to capture all the activities.
So that's why, like, ensuring you're available for that day, so
If-
quorum on that date is,
If there's some deadlines or something weird or something that's moved around, exec has to kind of float later to get it in. I don't,
That if I have a resolution on the 31st, that has to go there.
because that's come up.
My meeting comes after the board,
Yeah.
so if I have a July resolution, it has to get passed in August, or else it can jump to September.
Yeah, same with
It could
me.
jump to
No,
September.
it's tentative when it's passed at exec. Until
I see.
it's until, so we
It's
have a
ratified?
position, but it has to
Okay,
be voted or ratified, I think, by the full board, but it's a tentative.
Okay, so if my committee comes out with a vote, and I don't want to come to the August executive committee meeting because I'm far away, I can do it in September.
Yeah, so it would be the same for our committees too, because we're at the end of the month.
right.
Yeah.
So your June agenda, okay. so-
I think where it's come into the mix is with landmarks in the past.
Yeah.
We don't have those kind of deadlines.
Yeah,
Landmarks does.
okay. So we're all good with that? Okay. Okay, 1 second, let me just turn this off, and then, so with that, Mar, would you like to go?
Committee.
Yeah. Candidates.
So we had originally we received 6 notices to withdraw. leaving 4. One was at 112 Christopher Street. They had previously appeared in January and withdrawn. Came back with a whole new team, having done everything we asked, and extensive community engagement, unanimous approval. Another was a PCA, a proximity waiver request for a micro business, 285 feet from Housing Works at 738 Broadway. That was unanimous deny. There was another returning dispensary for 224 Varick. That was a deny with one person voting against denial.
On your committee?
Yeah, they had returned. We had asked for further information and they brought it in a phone book, did not send it electronically because they did not want it to become part of a record, which personally for me sent up a lot of red flags. So that was, we're doing resolution to deny. And the last one was, I can't remember. Excelsior, Weedcraft, J Industries. Which one?
West State.
I have it right.
West State Street.
Oh, yeah. How did I forget that one? And then there was one on 11 West 8th Street, which was pretty contentious. We had a full house. At one point, we didn't have enough chairs for all the people that were here to speak in opposition of that application. The current business operator there, which is a dry cleaner, Crown Cleaners, he appeared and spoke. There was a tremendous outpouring from his neighbors and people living in the building, young people like who want to, keep him there and retain the dry cleaner because they need it. It's an essential service for them. And that was it. Interestingly, though, and the
Is the landlord switching tenants because he's getting more rent from the new guy? You don't know.
no, I do know. So the owner of Crown Cleaners, who does not live here at all, he is the owner. A man named Ray has been running Crown Cleaners at this location for 18 years.
Right.
Owner has not been paying rent.
See,
Oh, wow.
sorry. Gotta go.
Never?
The owner he's ready to cut ties with this location, and cannabis dispensary is a great way for him to wipe his debt. My understanding is they're paying a lot more rent than the dry cleaner is.
But the dry cleaner's not paying rent.
Allegedly, it was about $80,000.
Yeah, okay.
Oh.
Of course, Ray can't pay that. But he would love the opportunity to assume the lease, which is actually really reasonable for Crown Cleaners. He would like to assume the lease and continue running the business, which is what the neighbors, so if there's a path for that, they have to work that out. That has nothing to do with us. Our job is to stand by the voice of the community, and the community does not want this. Interestingly, then I got a text from the guy who didn't show up to the meeting. The applicant didn't show up, even though it was in person only. Got an email from him at like 6:40 saying, I'm waiting for my Zoom link. But everything on our material says in person only, no hybrid, no virtual, He knows this. And he was laid over from last month, so he knew. He appears in his tank top by his pool. And I'm like, he's like, is there a Zoom link? Should I withdraw? I said, all these people are here. They don't want to come back. We're not going to ask them to come back. And so I said, I'm going to set you up a Zoom right now. So we did. He appeared. And, it really had no reaction to the people. But then around 11 o'clock last night, he texted saying, if we are able to move into this location, I would like to offer Ray a job. I don't want him to lose his livelihood. So that, like, the whole thing was, I could go on.
Cannabis dry cleaning drama.
Yeah. So that's what happened.
All right.
And we have no applications coming up
So what do you got?
Okay,
so far.
okay, so let me just.
Second I say it.
I'm just gonna put this on the board really quickly. So one thing, as we go through the reports, I'm going to quickly put up two slides, the June agenda, so you'll have it up there. So you don't,
How are you gonna write that resolution? You know, what did you guys say?
oh, there you go, yes.
Write it.
The resolution for 8th Street?
Yeah.
We're gonna incorporate a lot of the comments.
Yeah.
And just be transparent about what's going on. I mean, that was not the only issue. The other issue was it's not suitable. There's a school inside the building. There's like a daycare in the building on the 3rd floor, which we didn't know.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And then there's a New York Kids Club directly across Fifth Avenue, but it's not exclusive use, so it's not, non-compliant. And of course, Washington Square Park, like they don't want a cannabis dispensary. Somebody said, we have no shortage of cannabis around here. And so one of the neighbors said that, and it's true.
I have a question. I'm just curious. Did the Village Alliance know about it?
So we
No, the
email,
ability-
we have a distribution list. The 8th Street, I actually called Cormac and asked for contacts.
Right.
And so Carol Wilson, is that her name? She was very vocal. We also got a ton of emails on this one too. So we are going to include that so the OCM can see it, because I think sometimes they don't understand the human element or the big picture. They just read deny or approve, sometimes incorrectly too. So, we need to beat them over the head with.
It's a misnomer though that the gentleman who's there will be able to say, because it sounds like this situation is not tenable. And
Which Ray or the owner?
yeah, it's unfortunate that that gets in the mix.
Okay, you can't.
Well, he has a lawyer,
You can't.
right? We also, they can't throw him out.
No,
We also don't know if they can throw him out.
Well, who knows? I mean, that's
Neighbors don't get to decide.
rent dispute issue. So-
Oh, yeah, and the other guy doesn't even have a real lease.
Yeah. They talk about subleases.
The whole thing is very messy, and
I think we should.
we're just gonna amplify the concerns of the community. That's all we can do.
Are you gonna write deny or approve?
All
Well,
right.
it's a denial.
Deny, okay,
Yes, and so you will have the decision.
Deny unless, right. Yeah, okay. All right.
Is this going to be controversial at full board? Like, are we going to have a lot of people show up against this, or?
I don't think at
Okay.
this point it's that controversial. I don't think anybody would.
I was just promoting. So I noticed there are some new members, new board members on, so I just thought I would say hello.
Yeah.
We have on Sean Ryan, and here he is. He's right there.
Oh, where?
I can.
See their faces?
When can we see their?
Let me. I think I can.
Stop
pin-
sharing the screen.
Stop sharing.
Okay, sorry.
I
Okay, there's Sean. Hi, Sean. Welcome to being here. And then Nina Chen is also on.
Hello.
I don't know if she has her camera on or not. There she is. So let me.
Hello.
Hi. Add pin. Oh, there we go. There you go. Hey. Okay. Anyways, welcome. Thanks for being here this evening.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, okay. I didn't see Paul. Paul, are you on? Okay, Paul's right
Hi
here.
guys, how are you?
Let me add a pin. Yeah, so
Hi, Paul.
Hey,
there you go. All right, so welcome 3 of our new board members. So thanks so much. All right, I'm gonna unpin these now. Move. And, I can't, remove. Okay, we'll go back to.
You're up next.
I think I'm up next.
Yes, but I have one quick thing on cannabis really quickly. I'm just gonna flash on screen. So let me just quickly, and then we'll go to human services and I'll have yours pulled up. So just to share. Okay, so this month, thank you so much. The committee chairs already do so much work, put together 6-month outlooks and sent over their June agendas. So I'm just gonna quickly, but for cannabis licensing, just sort of some of the thematic issues, Mars kind of talked about a lot of them. So just showing it here that she had outlined. Can you say what TPB is really quickly?
That's the Trade Practices Bureau.
Okay.
That's the agency that is tasked with investigating violations of cannabis law and regulations, from enforcement of illicit activity to enforcement of legal activity to predatory agreements, which are plaguing the industry right now.
Great.
And
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, so those were some thematic issues. And then there was upcoming legislation that Mar and her committee are tracking here. So there you go. All right. So human services.
So we entertained 2 topics and I thought we had resolutions, but it turns out we don't have quorum. I thought we did have quorum because I thought the public members counted for quorum. Now they don't, so we didn't have quorum. Unless, was Ivy on the board in April still? She was, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Technically, yeah.
So she was totally absent, so we did not have quorum.
Okay.
So I will be presenting 2 resolutions. One is on rat abatement. And the gist of the resolution, the city is spending, they came and presented about how much they're spending on educating people about rats and inspecting people about rats and telling them how to fix things because of rats. But they actually don't have that many exterminators. And the tree pits are the responsibility of the exterminators. So
Of the owner, or the property owner, or the exterminator?
tree pits are the property of the city.
Okay, sorry.
So unfortunately, the chair of the committee that they came to happened to have just been issued a warning of a violation, because even though my stuff is perfectly clean, I have rat droppings because they come from the restaurants and then they live in the boroughs and then they come and poop at my house. So we wanted to ask them to prioritize abatement over just penalizing.
And who are we asking? Who is this resolution going to?
DOHMH.
Okay. And you know exactly who you want to. One thing that we're trying to, not to make an example here, is to really make sure, especially on committees where it's not an application, it's more topic driven, always knowing like who you're, what you should right from the start, right? If, you know, you're hearing a topic, who's it going to go to? I think you do a great job of that. So just making sure that we have that. And then if there are any other people you want at other city agencies on the CC, task someone on your committee to be that person of like, okay, it's going to this person and this, and CC, and have them look it up of who the name and title is and the email. It would be very helpful to then, when you send in your report, that you have another document that the office can use. So that way we can kind of stop the back and forth of where, you know, this, and it's always going to go to the 3 electeds. Maybe it doesn't always need to. You dictate as committee chairs.
That's a very good exercise. And that's a very good discipline.
Yes.
This will go to DOHMH.
Perfect.
In this case, DOHMH self-presented, so we'll expand from there. We had a dissent on our committee because Keene feels that there should be no money spent on rat abatement. So that was her opinion.
Live and love.
And she's going to discuss this at board.
Okay, great. Okay, so maybe there will be some pro-rat, maybe the pizza rat will show up to testify. Yeah, okay, there you go.
And then the other issue was we met with what's now called the Northwell Greenwich Village Hospital. They are adding additional services to their facilities so that they have changed their name and they consider themselves more of a mini hospital than a standalone emergency room. We are very concerned about the impact of the closure of Beth Israel Hospital on neighboring facilities. And this is not the closest facility, but it is a neighboring facility. So we put in a request to continue. Right now, their capacity, they say, is fine. But 2 requests. One is to continue monitoring their capacity, and the other is no matter the services that they are adding will still not allow that facility to be a location for ambulances for trauma, for pediatric critical care, or for psychiatric emergencies. So those things disappear with Beth Israel, and we are concerned about the lack of it.
Okay, great.
And we had, Janet, one of our members on the committee felt that it was too soon to make that statement. I don't feel that way because I feel that MSBI closing is really bad. Okay. But those will be proposed to the board for the first time without a committee vote as of 15 minutes ago.
Okay.
I wanted to ask you something which we'll talk about offline, but I just want to raise it. We are dying to meet with the head of Bellevue, and he's canceled on us twice. And he's now willing to talk to us at the end of June, but it's the same night as their CAB meeting. So I want their Community Advisory Board meeting.
Which we have I believe Ritu is our,
Yes.
okay.
So I was wondering if there's a possibility, which they would be open to, of merging our meeting with theirs. And I have to ask them some questions. Yeah, it's not ideal, but I don't know, it's just, it's so critical that we talk to this guy and find out what the impact is on.
It's like a joint.
Built on Bellevue.
Okay.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Yeah, let's talk about offline. Yeah.
Take the time.
Yeah.
here, but,
Okay.
And then you've seen.
Oh, yeah, let me.
Thank you for your feedback on the long-term.
Yes, so Susanna, I got this in super early. So what I'm gonna do is I thank you, everyone. I'll have a summary up here. But I will put this into a form where it's like I'll give if there's some feedback. So you will get feedback. It's just suggestions or, oh, have you thought about this? Or it's only to help. So I hope that the exercise was fruitful for everyone. And I do appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, so we are meeting next week, and what we are meeting, as it says right here, with members of the Village Interagency Task Force and with the woman from the Manhattan DA's office who's organized this. The Village Interagency Task Force, you may or may not know, is a thing. It's a very small group. It's 3 people. These are offline conversations. They are not public meetings. This is a program that they've done in a couple of other places in the city, and the aim of it is to give concentrated, intense attention to specific areas. So they have one meeting every 2 weeks with like DOT and
DHS.
they have one meeting that's
separate. Oh, okay.
And then every 2 weeks they have a meeting on human services. And I went to the one on human services. Finally, I'm supposed to be on this all the time, but Mark goes to these meetings all the time. I mean, they have mayor's office, the DA's office, DHS. I mean, I was amazed, but there were 20 people in that room and I thought this isn't going to go anywhere, but actually there was a lot of really good stuff said. So they're going to come and report out. It's important.
Great. Yes.
They report out.
Great. Yeah. And that's great because it's great. Thank you. Okay. So that's for May. And then for June.
For June, we hope we'll discuss this.
Yeah.
And if not, I have to scramble. I really want to have a meeting on these 2 things. One is Be Heard and one is the show vans. These are both acronyms. And these are initiatives.
You're talking about for July?
Yes.
Okay.
Unless this doesn't work, unless I have to scramble and try to get it in.
Oh, okay. Got it. Sorry. Let me just see what I.
Wait for half of June. But I'm looking to see, again.
Yes, let me show that. Okay.
The district needs statement and our budget request, whether we want to ask for Be Heard or for show vans in this district. And in order to be able to ask for them, I have to need to know what they are.
Okay, right. So on your, this one is right here. You're talking about that you would have to put.
I would try to do it for July, and then the budget priorities. No, that topic, the one you have there for July, that would be in September.
Oh, okay. Okay. So let me move that.
All those topics that you see.
Yeah.
That's not for September. Those are just like a list for what we would.
Oh, okay.
Throughout the year.
Okay, then I'll move those. I'll adjust those. Okay.
I saw your feedback on that, and that was.
Okay.
We're not stacking the meeting up with that. Those are just topics that I know will be.
Okay, perfect. Then I will adjust. So, because I was like, that's a lot. And then it got really small on here. Okay, great. So that's.
So you were like,
yeah. I was like, maybe spread it out. So again, this will be great. After I share the feedback, it'd be great to share with your committee. These are just internal documents.
Yes.
And when I say share, just let them know where you're going, so that they kind of have an idea of what to look forward to. And like I said, the whole goal of this was just to make sure we're not scrambling. And I know we do have things that drop in our lap and that we have to, we'll adjust, but it's just so that we have kind of a framework. And I feel like I've been inside each of your heads of where you see your committees going. So thank you for that and taking the time.
One other thing about succession, I have expressed to you and made a request that I've just been reappointed for my last 2-year term. So my request would be,
So you have made this request, and I would let's keep these conversations between.
Fine. I don't know.
Yeah. So yeah, I just
have to raise.
I would just
I'm just mindful about.
Very mindful. Yes, thank you. And I'd rather not bring up the individual names. But let's have that conversation, one-on-one. I've had it with a couple of people so far, just as things have come up. And so you're very forward
Without
thinking.
naming a name, I just wanted to suggest a template.
Yes, please suggest the template. That would be great.
Would be that I appoint someone as the vice chair,
Mhm.
and for 1 year, that person is the vice chair and takes on more responsibilities of writing resolutions. And after 1 year,
Yes,
we switch places.
yes.
And that person becomes a chair, and I become that person's vice chair, so that for 1 year, they have the support of the former chair as their vice chair, and then I step off and they can name their own. That's the template.
I think that's a great, I think that's a great template. So, again, we'll visit individually, on that and looking at your committees and looking as we start to staff them up with the new board members. I literally see everyone with like a year on their on their head and thinking of that in a positive way, of like, how can I help, how can I help, people that are on their last 2 years, like, what are you looking to get out of this? Like, what else were you expecting to develop as a board member out of this, that maybe there's something you can plug in? So I will be sending out a survey to like people who just renewed for their last 2 years, to kind of do that intake of things and just try to get some of that knowledge sharing or different things. So I'm open to ideas about that, because it was someone that I had asked, about something, and they were like, I'm really looking forward to like these last 2 years, and like, I'm really hoping they're going to be great. And like, it's like, wow, like it is a real thing, so I want to make sure that that's a positive experience. And if there's a growth area of growth people are looking for that works with what our charter mandated duties are, then I would love to help find that support. So anyways, so thank you for that. Land use, right?
Yes.
Okay, I should have put land use and housing. Eugene, hi. Hi, Katie. Oh, you're muted. I can take this off too for now.
All right. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, that's kind of weird. I think it's because it was under weird control. Anyway, so I'll start with the resolution for land use. We have one resolution for this month, and it is on the rent guidelines board. As many of you know, this year the rent guidelines board, they typically issue guidelines on how what the increases should be on rent stabilized tenants. This year they recommended for 1 year leases between 1.75 to 4.15%, and on 2 year leases from 4.75 to 7.75%. This is not a topic that land use normally comments on, but we felt that due to the economic climate this year and the increasing prices, as well as just the large increases that the rent guidelines board recommended this year, we decided to pass a resolution to oppose the rent increases and call for a freeze on the rent increases. We're joining a statement that 22 other electeds also signed on to, including Eric Botcher, calling for a freeze on the rent increases for rent stabilized tenants. Any questions on these? On this one resolution? Sure, go ahead.
When you guys entertain that, do you talk to people who are in rent stabilized apartments, and do you talk to property owners of rent stabilized apartments?
On this one, Katie, we did not on this. And again, typically we don't comment on the rent guidelines.
I just always wonder, obviously there's a burden to tenants to have an increased rent, but there's also a burden on property owners who need to pay, obviously, insurance and all that kind of stuff. And without a rent increase, they usually can't do it. So that's all. It's not a question that needs to be answered. Thanks.
Like a question, please. The subject of the terrible word to say tariffs come up, in that an air conditioner is going to cost more and a new roof is going to cost more because of the, did that enter in the discussion?
Tariffs?
No, but in the resolution, there is a footnote to a report that was released by, or it's really testimony that the Community Service Society provided to the Rent Guidelines Board at their meeting in late April, in which they they have about 7 programs, abatement programs and tax break programs that landlords can take advantage of to address some of those needs. So that information, it's not up front, but it is in a footnote in the resolution.
Because we do tend to be very tenant-centric and very much less property owner-centric in terms of our bias.
So that may come up in the discussion of.
I'm sorry, I also
That
don't
may
think
come up
that's
in the
true. I
discussion.
don't think they're mutually exclusive. I think, we all have to work and live together, right?
Not suggesting that we don't.
And as a rent stabilized tenant, thank you. We would love a rent freeze. That would be fantastic. And all of the electeds, all the candidates are calling for one.
That's true. All right.
That's.
Okay, so that is our resolution. In terms of the other discussion items, and this will be on the agenda for next month as well, but we have started having initial discussions about the city charter revision committee reports. And so that will be concluded next month in time for us to issue a resolution and have our comments be issued for the portions of the city charter revision that would affect land use and housing. The other agenda item, which we deferred this month, is the review of the final report for the Community Planning Fellowship report. And this was the land use in CB2 in Manhattan study that was undertaken by a fellow in the last 6 months.
And this is the 6-month outlook for land use. It's a little small, so I have July Gansevoort, second community space benefit. I don't know if you want to read any of those. Anything you want to just briefly summarize?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we want to take a look at the second community benefit space that was allocated as part of the initial discussions for Gansevoort. I believe that our comment period is coming up for the second tenant use of that space. That's community benefit that CB2 helped organize.
Is it a second separate space or it's a second tenant?
So that I believe is a second tenant.
Oh, okay. So, okay. So
excuse me, this is Frederica here. This is the actual second separate space that we had negotiated.
On Gansevoort.
Okay.
It's an off-site space.
Okay, I was really just clarifying for the new board members that are on, this is the second iteration of the Gansevoort art space that we talked about yesterday in the presentation.
I see.
Yeah.
This was at half rate,
Yeah, it's the one that.
a half market.
Thanks, Frederica.
Or whatever.
Oh, yeah, David.
That's the one that David Gerber had helped.
Yeah.
This space, actually, there were 2 spaces in this building, and one was converted to a cash donation instead that went to Village Cares, or not to Greenwich House, which was a pretty, it was like $1 million or something. So this was supposed to be a larger space in this building, and that was part of what we had negotiated as part of the public benefit, because it just started off as just on Gansevoort Street.
Excuse
Then
me,
the-
but Carter, if
Victoria's.
I'm hearing you correctly, this second space is not in the same building. It's
I
down.
didn't say that. I didn't say that.
Okay, good.
But I said that this space, actually, there were 2 spaces in this building, and one was converted to monetary donation through an option in our resolution that we had passed. And this was because, in fact, interestingly enough, Jared predicted the shutdown that happened with COVID 2 months before it actually happened.
Nice.
And this was sort of left alone because nobody even knew what a market rate was, I think, or how that would work.
Okay. And how do we, it'd be great, Eugene, at that meeting, if you, in July, if you could also go into how, or just here in like one sentence, like how do we track how did we know to go back to this developer to make sure we received this second benefit?
You mean in terms of accountability?
Yeah.
Or just sort of getting reports back?
Yeah.
Are you talking about this specific one or?
Yeah,
or
this,
general,
yeah,
any
this,
community
yeah,
benefits
yeah,
that we-
yeah, this one, just real, like one sentence,
Okay. Yeah, I think we can discuss that at the July meeting.
just to make sure that we have a process and make sure that we're tracking this. Okay, thanks. Okay, so next we have landmarks.
We had, it's a good example for the discussion of the calendar. We had two very full meetings. I want to say the pleasant things first. We had two big and all about preservation. One is what I would describe as medium size, maybe 40 feet, 40 something foot wide, typical Soho building of cast iron. And it is having a no holds barred renovation, which includes who knew you could take the cast iron pieces off and they're going away to be restored and then returned.
Oh, fancy,
And,
fancy.
this, it's 5 stories, I believe, and a penthouse added. Really a fine presentation. The penthouse is a little bit out of kilter, but we've made comments. It's going to be a 1-family house.
Oh, so it goes.
Yeah, -7 residential units.
And the other,
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
one is adaptive reuse of a garage on 10th Street.
My garage. My garage.
Unfortunately, both Susanna and Let me park there, but we're going to try to find them a new place. In any case, it's a modest addition on top, a cutting back the rear facade to make a larger garden area. And the behind it is an apartment building, and they had a great deal to say. However, the upshot is they're getting twice as much space as they had before to look out and onto a pleasant garden instead of a industrial backyard, back wall. There's a trend that's the less pleasant. It has to do with branding, and accompanying this seems to be a group of architects who don't know about landmarks, are not particularly interested in preservation as far as we can tell. And it makes for difficult presentations, that just the method of how to do it, as well as things that are not useful. One is on Prince Street, the perpetual problem of a remodeled many times tax building with an annex and a little brick building next door that I'm not clear on the age of. But anyway, it's a sort of a messy campus. And the proposal is altogether with branding, lighting forever, peculiar things at the window to see. And it's just, we went around, we've overdone this looks like Las Vegas. And what we came up with is a carnival encampment. The lighting is going to make it look like a beacon. We rejected the whole thing out of hand. The other thing we do sometimes is try to, say what can be preserved, but it's just, there's nothing preservable about it. The second one is a building on Bleecker Street, typical row house with retail on the ground floor. And for reasons that can't be found out, it was agreed to paint it pink, and it was really Pepto-Bismol pink because I compared it to a bottle.
You would know it.
And it came with the first that we've ever had of this kind to ask to have this be made permanent for the duration of the lease.
Yeah.
And the flags are enormous on this. why was a painted building a temporary thing to begin with? It has no relationship to anything historic or preservation or being even sympathetic. And we don't want to look at it any longer than necessary. And there's ever the danger of precedent being set. And the next tenant says, well, they had it, why can't we? And
Yep.
then spreads down the street and we could end up with Rainbow Row. So we were firm about that.
Right. Yeah, Susanna?
Well, first of all, reminiscing of, there was a building maybe 20 years ago on Bleecker Street across from my parents' house that was painted pink and green. I had a land use question for you, actually, and it's not, I don't expect you to have the authoritative answer, but I feel that you mentioned to me that when this garage is converting, that means that we have no garages that are freestanding garages. We only have accessory parking. Is that correct? Is that your impression, or?
I don't know that the three that I know of that have been lately conversions are in Village Housing and the Minetta Street and the 10th Street. And I don't know about other standalone.
Thank you.
Oh, Morton Street still exists.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Thank you. That's all. Sorry.
Okay. And then the illuminated signage is an issue that we are, the trend of that, Chenault, was something you brought up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that came up in the outrage of last month.
Right.
When they were doing a double height showroom and I think 3 screens together making up a big screen. I don't recall the exact details, but illuminated signage, which means a video screen. And there's simply no consideration of them in the statute because they didn't exist. What the statute now does is sort of envision a display or perhaps a poster or something of that sort that must be 18 inches from the window. But when one gets into video, it's super bright. It's not something that is nice to look at through the window. And it is light pollution. This one, we reckon that the apartments across the street would have to keep their blinds closed through the night. Because of it. So we're going to talk to Landmarks and send a letter of inquiry about some statute that will take care of this. And basically the illumination problem.
Great. Thank you. And we did go, I did go in person to testify. This was after our last meeting. I did go and testify on the board's position on 11 Bond Street at LPC, just to really emphasize to the commissioner. There was one commissioner who voted against the majority there because of the signage, and they did pull back on the screens at the top. So
and just as an update, myself and neighbors of mine met with 11 Bond Street, and they are no longer constructing that structure on the roof.
Oh, interesting. Great. Thank you for that update. So thank you for that update. So great. Okay, so let me go. We're going to go to Parks.
Okay.
So.
Well, for you new members, Parks is generally accepted by everyone.
That's it. That's the signage.
Greatest.
That's it. I'm sorry, what? Oh, okay.
That is the greatest committee.
Okay. Yes, you do have 3 new board members that are on, so you got to sell them. I hope everyone's selling. Because all 10 of our committees are great. Everyone is great.
So no resolutions, but a really good meeting because we were able to get the Manhattan Parks Commissioner, Tricia Shimamura, to attend. She's great. You probably know her when she was at the Borough President's office, or she was a community board member herself. And she's great. And Steve Simon, Chief of Staff, came as well. She's really open and honest. We talked about, you can read in the notes, we talked about Jefferson Market Garden, and we talked about, we also had a visit from a gentleman who represented Partnership for Parks, which is a which is a good organization that is a combination of the Parks Department and City Parks Foundation, which is a private nonprofit group. But I think the most interesting thing that I'll tell you here that Commissioner Shimura was asked about, it was kind of unfortunate timing because she'd agreed to come, and that week, two things happened. One, the New York City Commissioner had announced she was going to resign.
The New York City Parks Commissioner, right? Yeah.
Donahue. And so there were some questions about that. And the mayor's wish list budget had $51.7 million in for Tony D'Appolito Recreation Center funding, 58.8. Although the specific goals and the scope and the priorities were not explained in the mayor's announcement, there were a lot of questions for that. So you can read about that in the notes. One other thing to mention, 388, a couple other quick things. 388 Hudson, the Affordable Housing / Rec Center RFP process ends on May 23rd. We should get the proposals back. If a process is, if acceptable proposals are delivered, the process should select a winner, and the winner should select a designer by end of the year. And at that point, the community input will obviously be solicited.
Okay, so will that adjust where you maybe had it here?
That's why it's in July. We want to see what came back.
Okay, so you'll have that update, but then the actual referral to be reviewed would be.
That's up to Parks.
Up to them. Yeah.
I will hopefully have a say in it. There were two other things not on here. One, there is a Bleecker Street playgrounds being renovated, upgraded, repaired. That starts in June. They're replacing the equipment. They're trying to.
Yeah, there was a walk through today.
Got postponed.
Okay, that got postponed.
The rats thing. Keene got it stopped, I guess.
It must have been. Rich is here all night. I mean, yeah.
Also the Merchant House Museum is getting a new facade, roof repairs, stoop up renovation, street pruning of trees.
That's not on here.
It's not on here. No, it's just
That's
an
okay.
announcement. I'm just telling you. It is
Perfect.
today. It started on the 14th.
Oh, announcement. Okay, got it.
That's why the gate, one of the gates was.
I know there's there's an email I saw float in today. Okay, I just hadn't looked at it.
It's fine. It's good. It's a good thing.
Okay.
Steve talked about that. That was basically it. Our committee, I think the rumbling for the 6-month outlook, I think the story here is that I think everyone in city government is a little bit worried about the budget, the effects that cuts the federal government might make. The Parks Department is saying, look, if the budget has to be shifted around, Parks may not get the small amount they're already allocated. And so they're really making a strong effort to try to figure out, how to get parks.
Is this tying into the Friends group? Can you just briefly talk to that so that everyone knows why that is on there?
Yes, for the strategic sort of 6 months, the push. And by the way, it was perfect timing because Commissioner Shimamura was there and we said, hey, what do you think about our strategic objectives for the next 6 months?
Right.
And she said, look, it would really be very helpful if you could help us focus on identifying needs and gaps and priorities in our district's parks and open spaces to help us at the parks. And she recommended using a more data-driven approach than perhaps we'd undertaken in the past.
Oh, maybe she was talking to Susanna.
Yes, perhaps. But she was, remember, they utilized a new tool. They suggested we utilize the new tool they announced a few months ago called Vital Parks Tool. And the links in the notes, but it analyzes local parks across 26 or 27 metrics to identify underperforming areas and opportunities. And she said, what would really be great, and this is something I'd always thought of, but something I'd like to do in the last 2 years, she said, if we really embark on an effort with Department of Parks and Recreation to advocate for friends groups for each of the parks, starting by determining whether a park has an active one, and if not, encourage that one to be created and assist them in promoting their programming and volunteerism. And the Partnership for Parks does that as well. So it was a really timely meeting.
Good. Okay, good.
And that's the goal, is really, along with, of course, the 388 D'Appolito thing, the running stuff for the next 6 months should be finding spaces that either have groups, or if we don't have one, to try to recruit one.
Great. Katie has a question.
Yes.
And so does Susanna.
All right, let's go with Katie first.
Oh, thanks, Rich.
Sure.
Is there a large rally being planned for Dappolito by
Andrew.
Village Preservation?
Yeah, Andrew's planning something. I don't know if it's going to be large or not. Andrew's promoting it on June 1st.
I see it being promoted, but I believe it's several groups are
There's a
behind it.
coalition.
Yeah.
There's coalition.
Yeah, I don't know. He hasn't coalitioned with me. He has, I don't know what he's trying to achieve. I have a theory, and this is just a guess. There is a potential idea that, there's a potential, I guess, that the proposals that come back in response to the RFP might not be great. Meaning the developers that applied might say, look, we can't make this work and we need some funding. I think the mayor's 51.7 million, I think, was predominantly an attempt to open the outdoor pool. Remember, opening the outdoor pool means places for people to change and plumbing underneath and protection of the wall, all those things, right? The herring thing. But I have a feeling that maybe they're hedging a bit and saying, look, we may need some money to truly get the rec center built at 388 Hudson. So Andrew may have heard something along these lines and as well, I don't know. I don't think much could be done with 51.8 million for the total renovation. I don't know if Andrew's seeing this as an opening to say, well, if you come up with 51.8, you can come up with 500 million or whatever it really needs. So I don't know what his goal is. Remember, the 51.8 is in the mayor's, what do we call it? It's the mayor's
Executive budget.
requested budget or wish list budget or whatever. So it's not the approved budget.
Yeah. That's still being negotiated till the end of June.
Yeah, that's right.
When the handshake happens.
I have a question.
Yeah, let's.
You had yours.
Kind of a second.
Yeah. So the rally, there's a lot of people signed, I've just seen the flyer. There's a lot of groups on that, some of which we recognize like VID and some of which we don't know who they are. I know one, for example, actually, it's just one person. So it's not clear who those people are. But the thing that concerns me about it is I think that the interest in theory is a preservation interest to preserve the building. The language on the flyer talks about threat to public space and to public use of that facility and to the public pool. This is all actually quite misinformed. The question of what happens with the building itself is a discussion from what I understand, but the dedication of the space as public space has been very clearly laid out for, by the Parks Department. So if any of you guys have connections to that group, you just might want to set them straight on. They should be talking about preservation and not about loss of public space because we're not going to lose public space.
Really quickly, the groups were identified on other letters that I was copied on and was addressed to. So there are signatures on the other
some of them
letters. So I'm happy to share that
I
around.
know one of them is just one person.
They're the same people who came to our hearing that we did with March, the same groups.
It's a
Yeah,
lot
Janine?
more people now.
Yeah, I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of people.
I am not involved in organizing this, but I do think I just want to.
I'm sorry.
Finish, Janine.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I'm not involved in organizing this, but I think the nuance is some people want to make sure there's recreation space and some people want to make sure that the building is preserved. So Susanna, I don't think, however it's worded is incorrect. I think it's intentional, is my gut. So I just want to share that. And I think depending on who you talk to, you're going to hear a different answer. That's it.
I'm looking at the letter that this office received, and the language is different than other things that I've seen. So
There's been many updates. I'll send you the website.
yeah, I'm sorry, on the website, the information is wrong.
Okay. Yes, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
So this is a coalition primarily of longtime village advocates and certainly very active groups that have for, over 70 years advocated for public space and this community. And I think that, again, the conversation about preservation and public space goes hand in hand. I understand that there was also an independent study of the site, and it turns out it's not remotely in as bad shape as we were led to believe originally. So I think any money can help. They are looking at it. I don't think that the people involved in this movement are being unreasonable. I think they just want to see what we can do. How much can we? How much can we? The last letter that came out from Andrew did not say, we're going to keep the whole thing and we're going to get the money. It said, it's not in as bad shape.
Yeah.
Some of it can be helped, some of it's a mess, but we're going to do what we can. And I think that is really the way forward and reasonable.
Yeah, and I wasn't challenging the interest in preserving it. I'm just saying that it says on their website, the center provides an affordable way to stay active, socialize, et cetera. That's all going to be retained, no matter what happens.
What we hope.
Yeah, I'm just looking at an updated list of the groups here on the website, JAMRA, BRDC, DID, Soho Alliance, Bowery Alliance of Neighbors, Central Village Block Association. I mean, these are West Village residents.
Yeah.
Those are all.
There's one called the Christopher Street Blocks Merchants Association.
Well, that may be one person, but these
Yeah.
other ones are all huge.
Yeah,
active
that's what I said, that's what I
groups
meant.
in our community, and we see their numbers regularly.
I mean, VID built Abington Square Park and Bleecker Playground. I mean,
Next
this
time,
is
why you guys are always, there's always
They're
campaigning there.
interested. I'm just saying
It's ours, we own it.
I have a question. Raise the money. On August, the feedback on and potential of landscape or time landscape garden.
Yeah.
What's the feedback?
There's two things. So
Okay.
that's something Parks asked us. They said there were two specific initiatives.
Uh-huh.
So the general sense was go through, look at all the parks, and they said, please identify those parks that we have not invested in or have not received capital upgrades in 20+ years, right?
Okay.
As an example. And then they said their last time capital was allocated to them was, a long time ago. Prioritize these spaces for future funding and advocacy. And then they identified two. They said, what's going on with Playground of the Americas and what's going on with Time Landscape Garden. And we said, well, ironic, that's good. It's because we put those on our list every year for the, the district needs assessment.
Yeah.
But we've never really done any sort of community discussions about what could be done there.
Great.
So they said, so in anticipation of our contribution to district needs, they said, would you guys help us run some sessions? Now, Playground of the Americas is tough. It's a small spot.
Yeah.
It's right next to a residential building,
But it's great. I really like seeing how in November and December you've got, okay, we're doing this research here a few months before, and then we hope to have these presentations and a series. I love a committee franchise series of something. It's continuous. That's great. Love a series. Okay, great.
Can I just ask a question?
Yeah.
If you heard, or do you know of any information about what's happening next to Merchant House?
in the
The garage, replacement of the garage?
would that be to the west side?
Yes.
No, I'm sorry. No, I'm thinking of the park to the east side.
The DEP site?
Yeah, the old
Yeah.
water tunnel site. That was why it was brought up. I don't know about what's to the left.
Okay. And then just really quickly, your agenda for June, I see you've got Will.
So Will is going to come. We know we've sort of always agreed that we would do an update from Washington Square Park. This was, remember when we approved the Conservancy 10 years ago? It's been 10 years of Washington Square Park Conservancy. We made a pledge that we would have them back every 6 months. And sometimes we're late. And Catherine Swan calls me on it. But in this case, Will actually came to us and asked proactively, hey, I want to talk about it this time.
Great.
So things for the summer and the way they're going to operate the park, et cetera.
Okay.
The second one was something that Robert Atterbury just said, can I give an update on Hudson River Park?
Great.
Program.
Okay, wonderful. Great. Thank you again for your 6-month outlook and your June agenda. So next, I'm not going to give much more on outdoor dining, but I'm just going to give 2 statistics. Let me stop my share. I forgot, I didn't call on myself. Hi, Emma. Okay, sure. Okay. So the two statistics for the outdoor dining working group report is we have reviewed 87% of the roadway cafes that we were expecting applications for in CB2, and we've reviewed 48% of sidewalk cafes of the ones we were expecting in CB2. Obviously, new applications get filed every day. So but that's kind of from what the base number that we had.
That's great.
So just so everyone,
Restaurants.
just so everyone knows, and once we get to Donna's report, then you'll see where those are landing next. So that's all I have on outdoor dining.
You're not gonna be doing these reports every month, are you?
Yeah, we can take that offline. I have worked on a succession plan there, but there is not is due to commitments have not been able to fill that role. So just that's as much as I need to say here. So so moving on, schools and ed.
Okay, our schools committee met in April. Our agenda was public school parents, leadership roles, and how to get involved. Our vice chair, Martha Fitzgerald, gave a brief overview to inform families about opportunities in parent leadership for New York City public schools, focusing on community education councils and citywide education councils. These are councils that advise on school policies and zoning. There was discussion about the low voter turnout the year previous, which was like 2%.
Yeah.
Of families that participate, which was due to poor outreach, language access, and technical issues hindering engagement. Attendees present were urged to vote, share candidate information, and demand better transparency in the New York City public schools. That was the meeting. For June, oh, you have it up? Oh, okay. For June, we're gonna be talking analysis of 3K and 3K enrollment capacity and utilization trends. Hopefully we get somebody from the independent budget office.
Awesome.
And then I forgot to add that we're also going to do a preliminary capital and expense budget priorities for fiscal year 2027.
Love it.
I'm gonna reach out to the principals and find out if they need anything.
Yes, I'm really
before the end of the school
encouraging
year.
to start that research now so that September you're just like tying a bow on it.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
June, and then
Yeah.
I'll revisit that same topic in September.
Okay.
Because then we're gonna be not meeting in July and August.
Budget discussion. Okay. I took it off screen while I added it, just so thank you for it. Thank you so much, and thank you. Oh, so let's look at your Outlook really quickly. Let me share. Let me do play slideshow. Okay, so let's go really quickly. Okay, so school's out for summer, and then back to school. New cell phone policy. Oh, CEC rep. Oh, that's the back to school. Is this okay?
Yeah, and then we should have some new reps for the.
Oh, right. I forgot to put a bullet here for meet the new. Sorry, I will adjust that. And then new cell phone policy, and then this is a separate thing, right? I'm just sorry, I got with the bullet points. So immigration advocate groups and.
Those are just, the ones further down are just suggestions of who we might have.
Perfect. Yeah.
Have a roster.
Yeah.
Of people.
Yeah. And then November is high school admissions and middle school admissions. And then December is dyslexia and other learning, and then college savings.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Great. So hopefully that was a good, so that way we've got something, and that way we can always have things ready to go. And then we have, is there anything else? Any questions? Okay.
Why do kids need to go to school?
Okay, so Donna?
Okay, so we had large meetings for both SLA1 and SLA2. On SLA1, we heard about 15 applications because we were able to waive 13 of the outdoor dining ones. So I think in total, we had like 33 applications on SLA1 and 40 applications to SLA2 this month. And yeah, it's a lot of the outdoor dining coming in that has to go through quickly. There's a 30-day turnaround on all of them. We're trying to waive as many of them as we can before the meetings, so we don't have to go through them and get stipulations to everybody. I don't think anything is that outstanding. We had two applications that one laid over last month and one withdrew last month to go provide more details, and those were able to be worked out. We have stipulations on those. And there's one denial on SLA 1 for a place on Houston Street that we denied 6 months ago. The application is essentially it's the exact same applications. I'm not sure exactly why they came back again on that one, but our recommendation is the same recommendation as it was before because nothing is any different. So, and that's about it.
Okay. Any questions? Thank you so much. And thanks to the work of your committee that basically has like tripled their workload, I'm not saying it lightly. So thanks for that. So then we have street activities and resiliency. Eddie, are you giving the report?
I am. You're stuck with me. I'm not as eloquent or smart as Bill or Erica, so I hope that's okay.
Well, bless your heart and let's go on.
We had 18 applications. 3 of them were no-shows, all denials. The rest were all approvals. The one that I think got a little spicy recently was Fenty Beauty did an event with Shopify, and a couple days before the event, I know it's already happened. They got upgraded to a full street closure. They didn't tell us.
Yeah, I saw that.
Oh.
And so the event actually, when they came to us at the committee, it seemed super thought out. They had digital pre-registration, which we love to see, and great security. But it ended up, I guess, I wasn't there to see it, but it ended up being kind of a cluster. And so that I think had some blowback. And I'm not sure what we could have done at the time of the approval to know that would happen. But Will, I know, has been in talk with SAPO to try and get better notification about that upgrade. And they did pay the higher fee for the street closure, but of course there wasn't enough warning time to let people know that, you know, traffic and stuff was going to be diverted.
And it sounded like, and Mark maybe can speak to that, or but it sounded like that happened when they did the walkthrough. The applicant did the walkthrough with SAPO and with the NYPD, and that's when that decision was made.
And then it was.
So again, not that that is an ideal situation either. Yeah. So
No,
just,
actually, I think you're conflating
Mike,
that
wasn't-
with, no, there was a.
oh, that's the other
That
woman.
was
Oh,
the
so
Joe
it's-
Jonas thing.
right,
that didn't-
okay.
That's not gonna happen.
Okay, but okay.
No, the crowd was really big. If the traffic, it would have been ugly if traffic had been able to go through that.
Yeah.
It would have been big.
Anyways, Eddie, is there any other things you need to report on?
No, the one thing I'll call out is the Catholic Association of America / our friends at St. Anthony's are throwing a fundraiser festival to do all the repairs they needed that had kicked out SLA. So that might be one nice one to highlight for a friend of the community board. Everything else was, you know, stuff we had largely seen before. You know, lots of pop-ups. You know, we had a few people. We had one person change location, one person that was going to do charcoal grilling, commit to electrical. Otherwise, I think those were the main ones.
Yeah, and on the St. Anthony, the update that Mark had given was that were doing the renovation and they've had pieces fall off. And so I think the cost has increased there, as all happens with all renovations. Yes. So anyways, great. Katie, you have a question for Eddie?
Yeah, I was texting with Will because there was a crazy pop-up at 137 Perry Street, which is the old Cooper Classics building where they still have the cars, not the new one where they built an apartment building. And the line for this pop-up, which Will knew nothing about, went down Perry Street, all the way up Washington Street, all the way around 11th Street, all the way around on Greenwich Street, and partway back to Perry Street. So it was all over the block. And a neighbor said that frequently this location has this kind of pop-up. It was for gym shorts, Gym Shark. The name of the company is Gym Shark. They're giving away free gym shorts.
That's who I met with today, Katie, so that's helpful to know because we raised that issue, which was product events at their new store, which is the store at 11 Bond Street.
Yeah. So anyway, I just want to you know, I did text Will and he knows about it, and Mark was involved. But it would be great if indeed, as neighbors report, there are a lot of pop-ups there and they're not telling anyone. And the sidewalk was impassable, you know, on a whole square block. So just if the committee can follow through with that, that would be great.
I know that those types of pop-ups are super on the committee's radar. I know Erica also is especially passionate about these unregistered pop-ups that are happening. And so, you know, it's definitely something we want to look at. And I know Will has been trying to get SAPO to be more communicative on.
Thank you. Yeah, Erica was also involved in the texting on that. It was on a Saturday morning. I mean, you know, it's not, you know, of course, it's when no one else around. But
yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, and Erica's doing a great job of being a warm face and chatting and kind of trying to learn of how it got to be and try to positively educate and learn more so that we can maybe avoid that. Okay, great. Thank you so much.
All right, I don't know what our 6-month plan.
We'll go over there. So we'll go over it with Will next month. I've got it. So we'll wait till.
We have lots of applications.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you all.
Sure. Thanks. So next we have traffic and transportation.
Last but not least.
Wait, it's alphabetical. It's alphabetical.
Actually, this is from our April meeting, which was at the end of April. And the topic came out of Parks and Waterfront, your April meeting, which had to do with Canal Park and a public sculpture at Canal Park. A constituent raised the problem of access to Canal Park. And if you can picture Canal Park, it splits Canal Street actually into a north and south fork, which goes from West Street up to almost Washington Street. Mm-hmm. And there is a crossing which most people use.
Oh, right.
And the problem was that the traffic light gives you about 2 seconds to get across.
Yeah.
Very, very short green, very, very long red, no reason for it. I won't go into the details, but that is really the case. So we brought it to our committee for discussion. And we are asking for a resynchronization of the traffic light.
And you said a constituent brought it to our attention, right? You brought a constituent?
Yeah, one of the
Yes,
attendees at our
right.
parks.
Okay.
Right, and
Jeffrey Rowe.
straight out at the parks.
Ah, okay.
But and there really is a concern about access to Canal Park. They're trying to build up activity there. Rich can back me on that. And it's really hard to get across from south to north on that South Fork Canal Street.
Okay.
And no reason for it.
Great.
And you want to hear the details? I'll tell you.
I think we're okay.
So that was really that one.
Okay.
And you want to talk about June?
Yes, let me bring that up. So
Jeffrey,
What?
he'll be happy.
Yeah, oh, yeah, Jeffrey knows, yeah, right.
yeah, so I added in so this was May. Because you have a meeting next week, so I put your May meeting up here.
Oh, okay.
We got 2, so we got May. So I just made a note here of, could you say who the?
So the accessoride, it just was time to have an update on accessory.
Oh, okay, so
There have been changes in it.
Okay.
Amy is taking a lead
Yes.
really on
Great.
this.
Love to hear that.
And she's got some speakers, and I've been in touch with New York City Transit. So it should be interesting, and hopefully we'll get some questions that they can answer.
Okay, so it's the presentation by these groups. Is there,
Right.
if there's a,
Disabled in Action.
okay, that's on there. Okay, got it.
Okay,
Okay.
right.
Okay, so I'll
Just for a revocable consent for what you would call, I guess, anchor.
yeah.
To let me see, I'm looking at it myself. It's really to protect from flooding.
Okay.
The construction that they're doing, this is really only part of it from what my understanding.
Yeah, so, yeah,
It's
that's
just- which is in our district, and they're I don't think there's going to be any conflict about that. So
All right.
that's for May. And then June. So you want to, do you have June?
Yes, I put June up here, and then I just want to know who the request was by. Who,
Oh, it's really, it's the neighbors around the 281 Lafayette Street.
okay,
It's not a particular organization, but Mark can attest to this, that the CB2 office has been receiving desperate requests. Please find a solution. And so, yeah, there's the Gospel Club.
right.
Club is there. Evidently, endless cars pulling in, pulling out, noise.
Yeah.
And people are really having a hard time with it. So they have some ideas. We hope we can come up with some ideas. It's really.
Well, they came to us, that operator came to us for a roadway cafe, but it was only going to be weird because it wasn't the hours of their venue. It was, but more of like for yogurt or I don't know. It was like this kind of interesting interim use. So I don't know if they ended up getting approved or not.
And I just have to
And they
say,
also came to SLA, right?
yeah, I was gonna say that these changes in parking regulations are a disaster. They don't work. And you can just go to Zero Bond and the people park in front of there all night. It didn't alleviate anything.
That's what they're asking
Code out
for.
the street anyway, as it is. So the issue is they have traffic agents in the street, and even if they change the parking signage, they're still gonna cone it off. So people don't pull in, so.
Do you have any thoughts?
I don't know.
Janet is doing some research on what possible regulations there are, because, I'm of the same mind. So
the
you
cars are waiting.
It's just,
parking,
it's
and so
phones.
anybody can pull in then and fill it in, not only the people that have users of Gospel.
It's a magnified issue there because Lafayette, again, is a major
And I don't, and
artery from the
yeah.
bridge. Every single for hire car goes up there.
That's right.
When they come off the bridge. And then if you wait there for 2 seconds, it's a mess.
So, well, if you can think of any solutions, please attend our meeting and give your input.
So their roadway is not on the DOT list of conditional approval as of Tuesday, May 20th. So.
If I could just throw an additional fact, amplifying what Shirley was saying about the office having received these complaints. Up until today or yesterday, they were all about this traffic condition and, the bottleneck and the cars trying to get by, and I guess 3 a.m. partiers or honking horns and whatever. But we've just this week heard the suggestion that they're not obeying their stipulations with SLA about the level of noise coming from inside the restaurant. Everything we've heard about up until now was outside. So there's going to be multiple layers of complaint when this is heard.
Thank you. So
these people are really beleaguered.
So Pete wrote in the chat that Gospel had withdrawn their application. So that must have been announced at a DOT public hearing. So they withdrew their roadway cafe application.
Announced at our SLA.
Oh, maybe that's where it was.
Is that
Okay.
correct, Donna, that they said that? I think they withdrew it at the end of their discussion.
They came to you, didn't they?
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Is this something you need to?
Gospel, I see.
Yeah, it's coming
Oh,
up.
no, I take it back. They did that at the DOT hearing.
But yeah,
The outdoor dining working, it wasn't at SLA.
no, they haven't been to SLA.
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right. And then Shirley shared July and September. And I just put a note, if you could say who those requests were by, because we have the language of like on here.
Right.
Like on here, like we have requests by Port Authority. So if we could just continue that. And on this one, it's neighbors. For the traffic controls. Okay, so request by the committee. I was just so we know where these are, again, you were using it on the request from the Port Authority. So if we could just continue that, like who was the traffic expert?
Yeah, right. And we
name and their affiliation. Yeah.
Somebody that had come to Janet.
Okay.
And who actually does use these kind of facilities and has a lot of comments.
Great. So we can have that presentation when it's ready linked. And if we could put the names and organizations of who, and again, if it's by the committee, like just put by the committee.
Yeah, that was something that came up in committee.
That's fine. Okay, so we can get those for, we can update that for September. So, okay. And then, are there any other questions before we go to our item for new business? Okay. Thank you everyone for the 6-month outlooks. We'll go over the resiliency one, street activities and resiliency, next month when Will is here. So next we're going to go to new business. So is there any comments? You should have received the item that's up for discussion. Does anybody have want to comment on it?
Are we talking about the street naming resolution?
Yeah.
I really take offense at suggesting that these people did not contribute and live and were not vibrant and important parts of this community, because they were. And I wonder why anybody would say such a thing. There's ample evidence. It's ludicrous. That's first of all. Secondly, well, first of all is I don't think that this is timely. I don't think that we should be doing this now. I don't think that as a board, we should take the position to this backhanded, passive, we're against these street namings now. What we're upset about is the fact that they did not engage us in the process as they are supposed to. But we are not fundamentally against these, can I finish? Against these street namings. I hope that we are not. If that is the case, we were not given an opportunity to opine. Sometimes you just got to let it go because it's not going to make a difference. It is a done deal, as it says in the resolution. In the future and going forward, if we would like to encourage and ask and demand and require our electeds and the city to follow proper procedure, there is nothing wrong with that. But I don't think we have to do it here. And I find it suspect that we're doing it here.
Okay, well, I'm the one that brought it with our vice chairs from the committee, and the committee all agreed on it as well. First of all,
was this, when you say the committee agreed to it, can you tell me if this was discussed at a meeting?
I circulated it to the committee for their input.
Okay, so but there was no public hearing?
No.
Because I just want to second what Mar said. I mean, you stated it very well, and I also find this incredibly offensive. These three individuals actually were our community. This is why people come here. These are the people who individually contributed on their blocks. I mean, to say that they
What does they contribute to the community?
Culturally.
Jimi Hendrix opened up the first music studio owned by a musician in our community, where all of the musicians came to record afterwards, that played in all the clubs here. Yeah. Basquiat, his canvas was our community. He was here. He lived in our community. He lived in NoHo. He was our community, and it's just difficult to understand and make those statements. But I also feel that this is something to bring up directly with the council member, not through a public shaming, through a resolution. And I think that that's something. Mar and I haven't spoken to her at all about this. Yeah. I think that there's a reason that may have been a mistake that these went through, but to say that they're not part of our local fabric of our immediate community is an incredible stretch. And even just if you Google Terrence McNally in Greenwich Village, the first thing that comes up is a New York Times article that talks about 2 blocks in Greenwich Village that have produced more writers than any other.
That's the whole point, though.
But I don't know who we're sending this to. We're also, many of our members are appointed by the council member. I think it's inappropriate to put our own members in that position to vote on this without having discussion at the committee meeting. Yeah. So I feel very strongly about it.
I would like to comment. For one thing, our street, they don't meet our street code naming guidelines. The street code naming guidelines.
How do you know they didn't
established to limit the amount of street co-namings and the taking over of public space. So that we limited, take a look at the street co-naming guidelines.
But these.
We limited, can I talk a minute? We limited it to people, individuals, local people who worked on their block, worked in the community to basically better the community.
Like all of those people.
Wait a minute, though. If you had, but all those people, the other part of the guidelines say, not beyond the community. These people were known and gave great contributions, it says it in the resolution, to the whole world. We tried to narrow it down to specifically people who did very, very specific services to their blocks, to the surrounding areas the community board too. And if you allowed for every single person in our community, are you kidding? Who's culturally fantastic, you'd have every street corner with co-naming signs. So that
would speak to what our computers like.
Margaret Sanger Way. Those are the three words that I have.
Before, okay. Do
I
you know
mean-
the names of people that recently? Recently, we approved a man called Propenzano, I forgot his first name, who tended McCarthy Square for probably 20 years on his own, just beautified it and made it wonderful, not only for the people that live around McCarthy Square, but for anybody who passed by and would sit in McCarthy Square. This is a guy who really took care of the community, took care of his surrounding community, put his sweat equity into it. And that was one example. Another that we recently did was Vinnie Peanuts. You probably remember that because that was such a catchy name.
Yeah, we have.
This was another guy who had done all kinds of charity work for the community. In addition to having this little stand where he served people. So those are the kind of people we try to limit it to. And in truth, it's also to limit it. And that was one of the reasons that, okay.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, can I, I'm concerned about the blowback if you do submit this. To that, who are you submitting the resolution to the city council?
Well, it would be to the speaker of the council and then to our three council people.
I'm concerned about that.
Yeah.
Can I name the council member?
I'm
concerned about what it's gonna do to our community board and our members and if they're gonna appoint or give funds. I'm concerned about that. Let me finish.
In what way?
Well, I don't think this is a timely resolution. We should have addressed this when this came up back in 2020.
But it just came up for us.
It
We
didn't
just found out.
This happened quite some time ago.
Not the two, not Jean-Michel Basquiat or Jimi Hendrix. That was just in December we found out. We first found out Terrence McNally, and that was a long time ago.
So
We just found that out. But then we found the other two out and we said, wait a minute.
And so
I think we have to clarify. And I just have to say something else, that we've always worked with our council people on these co-namings. And they usually, they always come to us. So this was really unusual that we weren't approached in that.
So let me just clarify two things. So what I'm hearing is that two of our council members work with us very well on these. So again, I don't think they need the reiteration. Would you say that's a true statement, that they don't need the reiteration to come to us because we work they've come to us for street namings, the other two?
Yeah.
And so you're saying that this is a resolution that is proposed to be addressed to the city council speaker who is term limited at the end of 2025, correct? And the council member
what is his name? But there is somebody that actually is the head of the Parks Committee that seems to put this stuff together. So it would go to them as well.
And then to our council member one of our council members who this is directed at, who is also term limited at the end of 2025. So I'm curious as to what action you think they're going to take in the next 7 months.
Well, I guess the idea is to establish that this is a process and that we would like to have that process followed.
And so, and what you told me is that two of our.
We'd like to have our street code naming guidelines respected.
So
we've always gotten that respect from our other council people.
What, may I ask,
So
may I
something
pose
changed actually that hasn't been brought up, which is redistricting. So
It's what? Which is-
redistricting, that this,
Yes.
I know that one was
Right,
originally.
yes.
So to pass a resolution with this type of language, I think it is, I don't think it's a great thing to do.
Divisive.
And I think instead, we just need to start on the next election to make sure that we, you know, when the results
Let's go
are in,
meet with the
have
city
a better
council speaker, the new
relationship
one.
with the council
Okay.
members, because each area has different rules. But to this type of resolution, I just don't think is helpful. I mean, people don't like to hear it, but we're all patronage appointees, and here we are going after one of our appointers. I mean, that makes me incredibly uncomfortable, as well as somebody who represents us in our communities. And I just find this
Would this
very
be?
difficult.
I don't know, I
vote
don't
on
think
moving
that
forward.
fact that they appoint us should really have any weight in something.
No, I said it's
Question.
uncomfortable because we're shaming them, and that's.
We're shaming the
essentially
other
what
two
this
that we
is.
seem to have worked very well with in this program. You would say
Yeah.
that's correct, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so.
And before that, Rosie Mendez was.
Right, so I'm just curious as to if
Seated
two of the other
colleague.
council members who likely will be reelected were sending this to, but they don't need the course correction. So I'm just kind of curious as to why we want to address it to them with this kind of tone, when they have been in
Whatever incoming council people there are as well.
This won't go to the incoming council person if they're not going to go look this up. So I asked, would this be more timely if there's an education component with the new city council speaker when that person comes online in 2026, with the new district, the new council person that is term limited, with the hopefully Manhattan, the DOT Manhattan Borough Commissioner, when that role is filled, is that the audience? Is this timely to this audience of nobody in a vacant borough commissioner role at DOT, who would have the authority over the agency that's implementing this program, and then with the council speaker, and committee assignments are going to change. There's a new mayor, there's going to be a new city speaker, or city council speaker. If that head of that parks committee you mentioned on the city council, that person may be removed. So again, are we talking to ghosts here that are going to,
So are you suggesting that we postpone the resolution?
I'm not asking to postpone. I'm asking just, is this timely based on who you've outlined that this goes to? And I will say that I am really concerned about works of committee happening over email. That this, the expediency of this in a email, of everyone agreeing over email, I've made this very clear to the new board members, like there are no votes over email. There are no proxy votes. There is no voting over email after a meeting. And while it's great, this is, you've been in communication with them about that. This happening over email, I mean, this sets a very, very dangerous precedent for how the work of the board is happening behind closed doors with no public feedback on the process, and without a public hearing. And so I ask about the expediency and about the timeliness of this. That's what I'm asking. I would recommend.
Well, we could just as soon have the Traffic and Transportation Committee look at it when the new people are in. I mean, the thing is it's from what?
That seems appropriate.
I mean, because again, it's something that we would like to avoid. I mean, okay.
There's
want to look at our guidelines.
Yeah, sure.
But whatever the case, we do have guidelines.
There's good stuff in here.
People have always followed
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
They've worked with us. And in this case, it didn't happen.
Right, and it's unfortunate, and there's good stuff in here, because we don't want that to happen. The process does work when it's followed, and we can't speculate as to who or why or what, and it's really unfortunate that it happened, because as with anything of landmarks and adding in something, it becomes the next precedent, right, to your point.
Well, that's opens the door for all kinds of things that don't fit our guidelines.
So I really think, a beginning, probably when does the speaker get appointed? In February? Is that kind of when that happens, after the council speaker?
Yeah, it happens.
Oh, January. Oh, December, right. So, yeah, and so like, let's do a road tour. Let's go, and that's what I would, anyways, I just bring that up. And so if.
Well, how does the rest of the committee?
Yeah.
Valerie?
Anthony?
I just want to state, there was no vote that took place on Shirley's, message. It wasn't a vote, it was commenting on the wording, that was it, and she was gonna bring it.
Yeah, there was no.
Okay.
And then in terms of this celebrities sometimes getting street co-namings, there have been other areas like Times Square, Robert De Niro got a, street name and stuff like that. I think.
Oh, right, the living versus,
in terms of celebrity status, sometimes it just goes over community board's review, and, the DOT and, city council just puts a street sign up in terms of the particular individuals. If the level of having a resolution may conflict with some of our friendly council members, perhaps just a letter reminding them that,
that might
hope, these things just come to us, just real short. Just letting them
how
know.
about we do it as a letter?
I mean, it could also just be a phone call, like, hey, why'd you do that? Let's talk about it.
The biggest issue with these is they get stolen. Like they.
Oh.
No, that's a big.
Oh, and then the.
Awesome.
There's one on there's Joey Ramone.
Oh, right.
It's never there, because as soon as they put it up, some kid or me or steals it. The problem the DOT has, they always get stolen. That was one of the reasons.
That's fair.
But anyhow.
So I don't know, are you, it sounds like we have.
Also worded it very eloquently. And that, there is a difference between a local hero who very specifically, a heroine, who very specifically gives to the community, and somebody who is a national figure, an international figure. And we are a community that has many of them.
Of course.
And so there's got to be some way of us, for one thing, protecting our public space. And the other thing is to honor the people who have really contributed grassroots to the community.
I have a question. How is public space under attack?
Well,
here?
Think about it. Think about street signs and how that's public space.
Okay.
It's public space, it is.
What
It's
are we
considered
trying
public
to
space.
do tonight?
So, yes, thank you. Yes. So it sounds like if the consensus is to wait until the new leadership is in place. Does that sound like that's the consensus that we're reaching? And do we need to take a vote? Do we need to take a vote on that? How do others feel?
Well, let me just follow up on my question, because I just reviewed our guidelines, read through it. Some of it's quoted in here. And I've heard the other comments. It seems to me that I could agree with the first page of your whereases, because you are quoting what the proper procedure should be for co-naming. And you may finish on the bottom of the first page with, we found out recently that these procedures weren't followed. I don't believe any of the other whereases need to be quoted to further make the point. Because if the procedures had been followed, this wouldn't have been an issue. and then therefore, yes, I would agree that we urge this council to follow these steps. So that seems to be the crux of it. We have now been made aware of a gap in the process, and things got done without our knowledge. And we want to stop that from happening again. And we don't have to go back with what is already accomplished and try to undo it or anything like that. Or I just feel like we should be strong about let's follow the procedures.
Okay, so.
I think it
And just that you're right, but we're advisory number one, and we regularly aren't listened to.
Yeah.
And there's a prerogative of an elected council member who's elected, unlike the board members, that they do what they do, and that's what happens. And the way this is phrased, it almost makes it seems like it's required to have our approval, which is not the case at all.
Well,
And
it also
what I
is.
think that what the pointing is that they want. No, I understand that, but it just, look, it happens all the time. And to single out the street conaming is the issue where this happens,
So
I think is a little bit.
I want to see what Brian is saying. So you're saying have in all the whereases up to where?
Taking out
The end of the
these.
first page.
Yeah, but take out these.
Yeah, these.
Well, the end of the first page. Only
Just the
within
first page.
boundaries of CB2.
Yes.
Yeah, and then.
Oh, I'd even say this one.
We confer, that's kind of.
The last whereas is calls out the council member. It's like to.
So what you're saying is don't call out.
That is what I'm saying.
Yeah, he's saying
So
this
take out
one.
those three whereases, in other words.
I think he
And then
means,
go to where is numerous accomplished and famous individuals.
I count 5 because it starts on page 1. At the bottom.
What's that?
Oh, no, I think the last whereas on page 1 is important to note that we have just become aware of 3 co-namings without any notification or.
So technically they weren't, 2 of them were not submitted to us.
Well, the
So,
last one was submitted like 2 years later or
yeah,
something.
so,
Never
I
knew.
would say the council district, there. I don't
Okay.
think the name is necessary, but
So what you're saying is we should not name or the office it came from.
no, I would just say the council district too, but again, with this out or with that revised to council district 2, with these 4 taken out, this still is going to people who are leaving that are done in December 2025. So I ask again, in this revised form, it's still going to people who cannot act on it.
So we would say that we became aware of 3 things. That's okay. We would take out the.
And you just say in council district 2, that's what it is, it's a fact. But I would say that even with that change in the last whereas on the first page and with the removal of the 4 whereases on page 2, that this still is going to a term limited city council speaker, a term limited council member, to 2 council members that we have worked very well in this program and that do follow it. And to the head of a city council committee, the Parks Committee, that's where it's heard at city council, that likely will be a change in leadership with a new mayor and with a new council speaker. So I ask, even with these edits as proposed, is this still timely to the right people?
I feel like this is a beautiful opportunity now that we know that there's a deficit in the process. This is a wonderful opportunity to go back to committee, reconsider the guidelines and bolster them so something like this doesn't happen again.
Right, well.
This resolution, for me, feels like a gotcha, an attack. It feels very personal. It is not going to achieve what we need, and what we need is more streamlined.
But what Brian is saying, and I guess Valerie is now saying it too, is that most of these things are pretty neutral.
Right.
Yeah,
And-
it's just,
yeah.
for me.
But I'm also saying it's still going to term limited individuals and there's a change in leadership. You also have an opportunity to copy there's a whole new slew of other city council members and council members that will be appointed to that Parks Committee where that decision in Conamies gets made.
I understand what you're
Yeah.
saying.
So I'm saying
Till December.
no, you wait until the new leadership, like let's evaluate who's in the,
January or
but it's not till
February.
January in the spring. Yeah, yeah.
And maybe at that point, come from a place of yes, rather than this happened and we're mad about it.
And let's go
here's the
meet.
process we'd like to see. We want to work with you. I just feel like that's more positive.
And I would, yeah.
Or having the district manager send them a copy of that.
Yeah.
The point is work with us,
Copy of our
Yeah.
guidelines.
follow our guidelines.
Okay.
And don't confer with us before you go ahead with it.
Okay.
Well, and I
That's
guess
really the
advisory, so we can
message.
just ask them to do that, but at the end of the day, they're not obligated to do anything we
So my-
say.
my
as usual.
only
Most do, that's the point, yeah.
My only concern with any postponement of this revised draft would be, is there a possibility of any other action being taken about Aiming Street
Yeah,
between now and then?
that's true.
Because we can repeat
That's a
this
long
for the
time.
new members,
Yeah.
new elected officials.
But-
My understanding is there are no more, I've been in contact with that office.
Oh, okay.
So, and anybody could call and just ask. Any public person could too. And then we'd have the answer to
Again,
that question.
2 of our council members, this process has worked. It comes here, it gets voted on, and then it gets voted on at city council.
Right.
So, and if there's none from the office that where this came from, again, I ask about the timeliness of this to our elected officials and to the other leadership in the council that this would be over. So my recommendation is that this is, I don't want to say postpone, but it's, if there's any other changes you want to make to the street naming guidelines, you have a new council member that's coming in January and you want to make sure those are beefed and set up.
Call it withdrawn?
Yeah, so it sounds like, are you?
Well, I would rather actually do that edited kind of version and get it out and then just send it again to the new council people. On the other hand, it might be a better idea to have it before the Traffic and Transportation Committee. Have them really revise and comment and then bring it before the full board.
Why do we need a reso?
I mean, so
We're
we
just
can,
reminding people.
so we
of
can
our
take it, so we
procedures.
can take a vote on this. Because it sounds like we can't reach consensus to withdraw it,
At
so.
least somebody didn't know.
Yeah, but if there's a new council member, we just have, the district manager say, hey, here are our street, welcome, here
So
are
someone wants to
street
make a
donation
motion to
guidelines.
send it back to.
But they
or-
didn't follow it.
No, but our next
Guidelines all the
council
time.
member.
I don't agree. I think it does have to be reiterated because obviously they were.
But wouldn't,
And by the way, the other point was.
I think maybe
community
to
board-
help.
Ordinarily, the whole history, and I've been on the board a long, long time, has been.
So I don't know if
members
it is something, I mean, it was
come to
presented, I
us.
guess. So-
And they usually work, and by the way, sometimes they're borderline kind of things. But
Yeah.
those borderline things we work through and try to figure out whether they can fit. But
Okay.
whatever the case,
So do we have a motion to send this back to have?
Are you making that? Are you making, are you?
I want to make a motion.
Well, we don't need to advise them on what to do. We need to do, that's not on the table. We need to advise them on, are we voting on this resolution to send to full board here? Or are we going to send it back to committee? So I don't have a motion on it.
It can't be
I'm
sent
asking
back.
for a
Oh,
motion.
it never came from the committee. Okay, so,
I'm asking for a motion so we can vote.
Well,
I don't want
it has to be
to.
seconded.
What is it? We're not tabling it, right?
so to be clear that this,
So what is it?
I mean, this
What is that
this did
called?
not come out of a committee. It came, it was emailed.
And it was the chair and the 2 vice chairs.
And that's where, again, I'm concerned about the work of the committee. This wasn't held, and I asked, I'm going to recommend this not go to full board. So if anyone else wants to disagree, and if
Was
you
it
want.
seconded to begin with? I'm just, no, was the original new business seconded? That's the first step. So if it's not seconded, it's not on the table. We discussed it, but was it
Right, we
really
have
properly
not-
put on?
To my
the
knowledge,
table?
we have nothing on the table. in the
Yes.
form of-
That's right, we are discussing it, we are
It has
discussing
not
it,
been
so,
seconded.
okay, that's very true, so if,
Okay, yes.
okay, so someone needs to make a motion to,
Well, if there's no second, then it's done.
Right.
okay,
So can someone suggest a motion so we can move on?
No, you don't need a motion. If it's not seconded, it's not.
yeah, there's nobody has seconded it, so I'm recommending it's not, no one seconded it to
To move forward.
So, do I have a second to move forward?
You mean move forward from the executive committee?
Move forward to
even
vote, to
to have a
vote.
vote.
Yeah, to have a
It was
vote. It
never
hasn't, it was
seconded.
introduced, but it was not seconded.
Okay.
So if someone wants
So now
to
it's dead
second
in the
it,
water if we don't second it, right?
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
so no one else has seconded
Still
it.
have the prerogative
What?
to have it before the Traffic and Transportation Committee.
Yes,
That
yes,
doesn't-
but also know that this body here has made these, raised these or flagged these issues of, even if it sounds like, based on what people have said here tonight, that even if this were to be the subject of next week's meeting or the subject of a June meeting, that the timeliness of the leadership that this would go to, that was flagged here as an issue, and that the recommendation is to wait until the new council person is put in place and new council speaker, and hopefully a new Manhattan Borough Commissioner for DOT, to ensure that where the new council person is set up on the right foot with these guidelines. And if there's any changes you want to make to the guidelines in preparation of that for any of those audiences, it just sounds like we're speaking to an audience, 2, that worked really well with this program, and then 3, potentially 4, and 1 that doesn't exist in a role, and 3 that are going to be changing leadership. So that's so if there's a second, I don't have a second on the floor, so. Okay.
Okay, so we'll just, consider it for future.
Yeah, like I said, there's good stuff in here. Okay, so is there a motion, is there any other new business? Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
Oh, my goodness.
Okay,
I saw.
great, okay, great. All right, so that is it. Thank you all. We'll see you at full board on Thursday.
Oh, yeah, see you.